Thank you for joining us for the recap of the initial 34 chapters of the captivating Manhwa series, Escort Agency of the Apocalypse. If you're eager to explore further, the link is provided in the description below. Don't forget to show your support by liking the video and subscribing for more thrilling content. Enjoy watching. About 150 years ago, the world came to an end. A huge explosion befell upon the world and every city was destroyed and reduced to ruins. After the catastrophe, all living creatures underwent an unknown mutation and they became monsters known as demonic beasts who now rule the new world. The humans who once ruled the world are mere ants in front of these beasts. A gigantic two-horned beast loomed over the tall buildings, sending the humans standing under those buildings into a panic, causing them to begin running. As the people ran, they bumped into a little young girl with short orange hair, her bag full of canned foods. Consequently, she fell and her canned food scattered around. Without a moment's hesitation, a middle-aged man grabbed her shirt, picked her up, and carried her while running. Even though the girl tried to put up a fight, the man scolded her, telling her that her life was more important than canned food. Although she protested that she hadn't eaten anything for 2 days, the man told her to bear with it as supplies will arrive soon. Together, they were rushing towards their base, which can provide them safety. In order to resist the demonic beasts and live on, the survivors built base towns one by one. These strongholds contain weapons that were left behind before the catastrophe and can defend against the demonic beasts to a certain extent. A female was climbing up the stairs in a rush, the vice captain of the base, and was climbing up their tower to check on the situation. With binoculars in her hand, she looked out at the base and questioned the choices of the people to go out as they were attracting demonic beasts to the base. She asked where the captain was, but before the guard could answer her question, he saw the captain out there running with a little girl, which made her furious and immediately questioned why he was there. The guard told her that there was no other way as their supplies were running out. The demonic beast had been around for a few months, so if they didn't go and search for food, they would all starve to death. To ensure the survival of the base town, it was crucial to have a steady circulation of supplies between base towns despite the difficulty in acquiring them. However, the vice captain's frustration grew when she asked the guards if the cannon was ready and was informed that while the cannon was locked to the target, ammunition was lacking. The guards suggested firing the cannon, but the vice captain firmly declined, fearing that it could provoke the demonic beast and put the base town in danger. Desperate for supplies, the vice captain asked when they could expect the arrival of the much-needed supplies. Thankfully, the guard checked the guild's schedule and assured her that the supplies would arrive that day. Meanwhile, a powerful escort carrying a bag much larger than himself was leaping across the rooftops, delivering essential supplies to various base towns. Possessing extraordinary strength, this was a risky and dangerous task that only escorts dared to undertake. The captain and a young girl were on the run when they suddenly encountered a huge exploding light and a stranger standing in front of them. The stranger turned out to be the escort with the delivery, who greeted them despite the rubble falling around them. The captain was relieved to receive the supplies and excited to finally fight the demonic beast that was pursuing them. However, the escorts rummaging through his bag caused the captain's panic to rise, especially when he produced a power-enhanced lighter that was windproof. Despite the captain's warning, the escort continued to search and found a multifunctional pocket knife, which he touted as very sharp. As the beast was now a few steps away from them, the captain and the little girl attempted to carry the escort's bag to run away, but they couldn't move it at all. Consequently, the captain, enraged, grabbed the escort's collar and called him insane as he asked them to sign the proof of delivery. Meanwhile, the little girl looked up with her mouth open due to shock. Suddenly, the beast reached out its hands to attack them, catching the escort's attention, as well as the captain whose eyes were bulging out and snot dripping out. Believing they were dead, the captain thought it was the end, but the escort called out to it and switched to a punching stance. Remarkably, light emitted from the escort's hand, and parts of the beast's body disintegrated in the light that shrouded it. While releasing his punch, the escort told it not to disturb their delivery. The vice captain was surprised and raised her hand to signal the guard to stop firing. However, the guard, also shocked, replied that they did not fire the cannon. Similarly, the little girl and the captain were surprised and speechless. As if he just remembered something, the escort exclaimed, which startled the little girl and the captain who fell to the ground. Subsequently, the escort knelt and held out a cylinder to the captain, who was now sitting, asking him if the item was his delivery. The captain, still in shock, confirmed that the item was the universal energy ammunition the cannon of their base town needed. The escort smiled and pointed at a piece of paper he was carrying, asking the captain to sign it as proof of delivery, and reminding him to give a good review if they were satisfied with the service. Once the escort gathered the papers, he said that his job was done and thanked the captain for using their service, but the captain could not utter a single word. Consequently, as the escort was walking away, the little girl asked who he was. Lurena looked back and introduced himself as an escort, expressing his eagerness to serve them again. As the sun was rising from the mountains, multiple corpses lying across the forest were uncovered by the sunlight. Among those corpses was a young lady wearing a violet dress. Suddenly, a demonic beast approached her and picked her off the ground with its hand, while picking up another man with its feet. Lurena appeared behind the beast and expressed his surprise at encountering a demonic beast. However, the demonic beast sneered at him, and he recognized the symbol on its neck. The lady the beast was holding coughed as she regained consciousness, which startled Lurena. When she asked him if he was an escort, he introduced himself as a black iron level escort and told her to hang in there as he was going to save her. However, upon hearing that he was a black iron level, she told him to run instead of trying to rescue her. The beast was about to put her in its mouth, but she was still worrying about him, telling him not to worry about her and just run. Suddenly, Lurena was at the beast's arms and swiftly cut its arms. As the beast was screaming in pain behind Lurena, he walked away from it, carrying the girl in his arms. As he kneeled and placed the lady on the ground, telling her not to worry, the enraged beast behind was now pouncing towards them. In response, a lightning-like aura enveloped his body, and his eyes sparked lightning along with it. When the beast's fingers managed to reach him, a huge flash of light followed by an explosion occurred. Rubble was falling everywhere, and Lurena was now standing, saying that he was the strongest black iron level escort. After telling the lady that he would take her to get treatment right away, she stopped him, saying that she has a little sister who was running deep into the forest, holding a box close to her chest, as she was being chased by demonic beasts. The lady asked Lurena to save her as she was the last hope of their village. As the sister was running in the forest, breathing heavily with exhaustion, she thought that she was now safe. However, to her disappointment, she heard a loud noise coming from behind and realized that the beast had already caught up with her. She cursed and panicked as she was running while looking back at the beast, thinking about what she should do. It was then that she did not notice Lurena had appeared in front of her, surprising her. On the other hand, Lurena was calmly apologizing for disturbing her and asked if she was Lu Xiangxiang. Lu Xiangxiang tried to stop on her tracks, but she lost her balance instead and fell towards Lurena, resulting in them tumbling down the road. Now, Lurena was lying on the ground with Lu Xiangxiang sitting on top of him, his face squished in between her legs. Upon realization, Lu Xiangxiang was extremely embarrassed and grabbed the box she was carrying earlier and smashed it into Lurena's face. They were now standing, and she asked him who he was with a very red face. With the box still sticking to his face, he introduced himself as Lurena, an escort from the Tianfu base, which immediately relieved her when she heard that he was an escort. As she was about to tell him about the demonic beast following behind her, a whole uprooted tree came flying towards their direction. Smoke and a flash of light emerged, and the tree was torn to pieces. Lurena was now carrying Lu Xiangxiang in his right hand and the box in his left hand while he hoped away from where the tree was thrown. They could now see and were facing the demonic beast looming over them, and Lurena now understood what Lu Xiangxiang was trying to say earlier. Lu Xiangxiang was now filled with horror as she asked what they would do, but Lurena simply laughed and told her not to worry. Due to fear, she hugged him so tight that his face was squished in between her bosoms. He was trying to comfort her, but he was not able to finish his sentence when a flash of light coming from behind them caught his attention. Out of nowhere, blood spurted out of the beast's head, and it screamed in pain. Lu Xiangxiang was now looking back like Lurena was, and they saw a man riding a motorcycle with a sidecar. He was holding a gun with a light flashing at the tip of it and was pointing it towards the beast. As the beast was screaming in pain, it charged towards Lurena and Lu Xiangxiang. Lu Xiangxiang was scared, while Lurena was still calm and wondered why the beast was angry at them. The man holding the gun yelled at them to stay back as he approached the beast at high speed in his motorcycle combination. He jumped out of his motorcycle combination and towards the beast as he fired multiple shots midair. He also reloaded his gun midair and shot it one more time. The beast's head exploded as the man turned his back, hopped away from it and landed on the ground perfectly. The man was lazily sitting at his motorcycle combination while he asked if Lu Renjia and Lu Xiangxiang were injured anywhere. While sparkling, he said that she was a lovely young lady as delicate as a flower and that if she were to get a speck of dust on herself, he wouldn't be able to sleep at night. She blushed when she heard his flowery words and confirmed that she was not hurt. With her eyes twinkling, she asked him if he was also an escort and complimented his cool moves. She was buttering him up with compliments and he was bragging about them that Lu Renjia was annoyed and told them he could also kill the beast. This piqued the man's interest, and he introduced himself as Nape, a white silver-level escort. He was about to ask Lu Renjia but was not able to finish his sentence as Lu Renjia immediately answered that he's also an escort and introduced himself while proudly showing his badge. Nape scoffed and asked if what he was holding was a black iron-level badge. Lu Xiangxiang got curious and asked what the black iron level meant. With a mocking smile, Nape told her that there are 6 levels of escorts: black iron, bronze, white silver, gold, platinum, and diamond, and those levels also correspond to the beast they can defeat. He closed his eyes and was about to give a lecture about how Lu Renjia would not be able to defeat the beast and they would have been in trouble if he hadn't arrived, but he was not able to finish his sentence. Lu Renjia just walked away telling Nape to take the corpse of the beast and claim his reward while carrying the box and dragging Lu Xiangxiang with him. She told Lu Renjia to wait a moment and asked how he knew her name. He stopped in his tracks and gave her a wooden ornament. She immediately recognized it as her sister's and asked him why it was with him, and he told her that her sister entrusted him to protect her while she delivered a batch of emergency medicinal supplies back to the village. She was about to ask him about the condition of her sister, but she was not able to finish her sentence as Lu Renjia cut her off and apologized. Lu Xiangxiang knelt on the ground sobbing, while Nape comforted her and offered his condolences. Lu Renjia looked at them, wondering if they were misunderstanding something. He apologized for being late and explained that he had taken Lu Xiangxiang's sister to the nearby escort camp for treatment. However, he decided not to clarify the misunderstanding as he was not sure if her sister was actually alive. Lu Renjia said that he had been entrusted with protecting Lu Xiangxiang while she delivered and that he had already received his remuneration, holding out an item in his hands. The item caught Nape's attention, and he seemed to recognize it. When all living creatures became demonic beasts due to an unknown mutation after the catastrophe, humanity developed a method to obtain extraordinary power to fight against the powerful beasts. That was what Lu Renjia was holding, the genetic evolution fluid, and he was surprised that Nape knew about the fluid too. Lu Xiangxiang was still crying as she told them that it was her sister's dowry. Nape suddenly had this suspicious look while he stared at her. He picked her up from the ground and wrapped his coat around her. He then began cheering her up and told her that she should do her best to fulfill her sister's last wish, which was to deliver the supplies back to the town. Lu Renjia commended his speech and told Lu Xiangxiang that they should depart, but Nape stopped them. He then proceeded to warn Lu Xiangxiang that she must be careful because the demonic beasts around the forest were not weak. Lu Renjia cut Nape off and told him that he was being enigmatic and to get to the point of what he was trying to say. With a sinister look, Nape said that he was just worried about Lu Xiangxiang's safety, who had just lost her sister and was in such a dangerous place. He then smiled towards Lu Xiangxiang and offered his services to escort her, and she agreed but questioned if she could trust him. Nape guaranteed his services and asked for the genetic evolution fluid as his remuneration. While wiping her tears away, she told them that it was the only one in their town. Nape then convinced her to make Lu Renjia withdraw from the task and take the genetic evolution fluid back so she could give it to him. He argued that she would be much safer with him as an escort. Lu Renjia smirked as he realized that Nape was after the genetic evolution fluid, which did not surprise him, as it not only allowed ordinary people to awaken extraordinary powers, but it was also key to advancement for the awakened. He then taunted Nape and asked what would happen if he said no, but Nape denied that he was doing the escort mission just for the genetic evolution fluid. Lu Xiangxiang was startled as Nape pointed his gun at Lu Renjia, and with a disgusting look on his face, he told him that he didn't know how he tricked her sister but as her escort, he wouldn't allow her belongings to fall into the hands of an outsider. Lu Renjia suddenly vanished from where he was standing and appeared behind Nape, who was now terrified as he told him that he doesn't like it when someone points a gun at him. Nape was puzzled by Lu Renjia's sudden appearance behind him. As he turned around, he saw Lu Renjia handing the genetic evolution fluid to Lu Xiangxiang. Lu Renjia explained that the fluid originally belonged to Lu Xiangxiang's sister, so she should decide who she wants as her escort. Lu Xiangxiang thought about it and decided that it was more worth it to hire a higher level and more handsome escort, even though the remuneration was the same. Seeing Lurena dejected, she tried to comfort him, telling him that she was still deeply grateful for coming and rescuing her. Nape praised her for being sensible while Lurena did not put up a fight and told them to move along. As the two rode away on Nape's motorcycle combination, Lurena was relieved that he was finally able to send them away. Lurena then headed towards the beast's corpse to examine it, and something caught his attention that alarmed him. He let out a sigh and said that it seemed he had to follow them as he saw that the beast had the same symbol as the first beast he encountered earlier. The narrator then explains that 150 years ago, refuge bunkers were prepared for elites from various countries. After the catastrophe, they established the 5 beacons of light known as dragon, fish, snake, ox and bear with their own bunkers as the core to retain civilization. An old man wearing a military uniform told Lurena that he had to go to the fish-based jurisdiction, and he must not reveal his identity. Lurena was asked if he figured out a way to hide it. He told the old man not to worry as he had it covered while wearing a flower costume, which pissed the old man. The old man threw a badge at Lurena's face and told him to carry the escort's insignia with him. The old man explained that people with that kind of insignia like to attack escorts, so they should wait for them to fall for the bait. Meanwhile, Lu Xianxiang was traveling with Nape on his motorcycle combination, mourning her sister. Nape comforted her by bragging about his ride being called Rolls-Royce, and she cheered up saying it was cool and asked if Lurena would have one too. Nape was offended by the question as black iron is the lowest level of escorts, so they could not afford a vehicle, but Lu Xianxiang added that Lurena flew behind him in an instant, which was awesome. Nape was speechless and became sweaty as he recalled the incident. Suddenly, he looked at the genetic evolution fluid in his hand with an evil grin. Before he could finish his thoughts, Lurena appeared at the side of the road warning him that he would crash the bike if he didn't look at the road, which startled him. His vehicle swerved on the road and came to an abrupt stop, and he nervously asked Lurena why he was there. Lurena nonchalantly replied that his bike was so noisy, so he was able to find them, but he protested that it was not a matter of finding. While they were talking, something caught Lurena's attention, and he said that they had another guest. A huge monkey was hanging from the building in front of them, with gleaming red eyes, and it uttered the word food. After the catastrophe, the new world was dominated by demonic beasts, and the escort union divided them into 6 classes. These classes were normal, great, super, ultra, legendary, and god. According to legend, the strongest demonic beast, a god-class creature, hibernated deep in the demon mountain all year round, possessing the power to destroy everything in its path. Humans facing demonic beasts were like ants in their eyes. The huge monkey in front of them leaped from the building it was hanging from, it landed on the ground in front of them and again uttered the word food, which startled Lu Xiangxiang. Lurena sniffed something from her and asked if they smelled anything strange, but Lu Xiangxiang retorted that it was not the time to talk about that. Nape reassured them that they could relax as the demonic beast they were facing was just an Ame monkey that relied on begging and robbing for food before the catastrophe. He pulled out his gun and readjusted his glasses, stating that it was just a superclass demonic beast that lives in groups, so it was nothing for a white-silver escort like him. Nape then commanded the monkey to go away, acting cool, while Lurena teased him, and Lu Xiangxiang cheered him on. The monkey threw a tantrum and was about to attack them, but with one hand, Nape confidently pointed his gun at it, calling it an ignorant fool. As the monkey leaped towards him, he shot its shoulder while it was midair and maneuvered his motorcycle to dodge the coming attack. The monkey was in pain, but it looked like there was not that much damage to it, which worried Lu Xiangxiang. Still, Nape was still confident and told her to be patient. Suddenly, the bullets lodged in the monkey's body exploded, and Nape was proud of what he had done, stating that a black iron level could not achieve what he just did, while Lu Xiangxiang praised him for it. Lurena looked up, ignored Nape's deprecation, and asked him if he remembered what he said about this demonic beast living in groups. He was acting nonchalantly while he waved his hand to point out the group of monkeys at the top of the building. Moments later, a group of monkeys were chasing Nape's speeding motorcycle, jumping from the top of buildings to another. Lurena criticized Nape's bike for being slow and noisy, questioning its capability. Nape lost his temper and told him to shut up, saying that it would be faster if he would get off. As Nape shot the beasts chasing them while driving, his agitation grew. When Nape killed another monkey, a monkey at the top of a building roared, and more monkeys appeared seeking revenge. Lurena explained that the more gregarious beasts one kills, the more they appear, creating a beast wave. This information made Lu Xiangxiang and Nape equally worried. Nape shot the beasts aggressively, telling Lurena that they would be waiting for their deaths if he didn't shoot. He threatened to throw Lurena off the bike to see what he could do. In response, Lurena stood up, carried Lu Xiangxiang, and with a smile on his face, said that he had some idea. Nape was taken by surprise, and while he asked what Lurena was doing, Lurena immediately jumped off the bike and punched the ground, creating a smoke screen for them. Nape was now alone on his bike, surrounded by smoke created by dust and rubble, which dropped his visibility. As monkeys started emerging from the smoke, Nape turned pale with panic and quickly ran away from the monkeys while cursing Lurena who tricked him. Meanwhile, Lurena and Lu Xiangxiang were hiding at the foot of a building, observing the chasing monkeys from the sidelines. Lurena was laughing and told Lu Xiangxiang, who was worried for Nape, that they would hide there for now while Nape lured the demonic beasts away. At this moment, Nape continued to curse Lurena while doing his best to run away, but the monkeys were closing in on his bike. Nape found himself surrounded by monkeys seeking revenge, and one of them even smashed the ground as he got closer to getting caught, but he managed to dodge by maneuvering his bike to traverse at the wall of the building. To make things worse, Nape shot one of the monkeys and ran away, threatening to kill them all if a beast wave occurs. He was not worried about the monkeys catching up to him, but he was worried about the expense of his bullets. Nape was thinking of making Lurena pay once he escaped from the monkeys when he noticed a silhouette of a beast standing atop the building in front of him. The beast raised a gigantic stone pillar which made Nape anxiously speechless, and he was caught off guard when the beast threw the pillar towards him. Meanwhile, Lurena was peacefully resting while drinking his hot water, and Lu Xiangxiang criticized him for it. He offered her a drink of his hot water, but she refused and called him heartless instead. Suddenly, a huge rumbling sound caught their attention, and Lu Xiangxiang became worried about Mr. Nape. With a smiling face, Lurena offered to take her first to the village and then come back as a special service to bury Nape's corpse. She reluctantly refused, but then immediately switched to a firm tone of refusing when she remembered that the important supplies were with Mr. Nape, and she could not return to the village without them. Lurena was confused as he could see her box next to her, but she told him that the box only contained daily supplies, and the most important medical supply was the flavonoids used for pregnant women during childbirth. She had handed those to Mr. Nape for safekeeping. She panicked as the babies in their village that were about to be born would be in danger without the flavonoids, but Lurena smiled and told her not to worry because he was just messing with her. He said that monkeys can't do anything to a white-level escort unless a stronger demonic beast appears. As for Nape, he was now kneeling on the ground, his bike overturned, and the silhouette of the demonic beast was now standing in front of him. Nape was in trouble as the silhouette of the demonic beast started approaching him, and soon he found himself surrounded by monkey beasts. In front of him stood a two-horned beast with two monkey beasts by its side. He wondered if this beast was the leader of the group of monkeys when the beast started talking. It was pleased that it found a white silver-level escort and laughed with a sinister look on its face. Nape felt a chill run down his spine as he sensed an oppression that led him to believe that he was facing a high-class demonic beast. He knew that he must find a chance to escape. However, before he could finish his sentence and do anything, the beast pushed him to the side with the back of its hand, and he collided with the wall. Meanwhile, Peach Blossom Village was a village dominated by women. They lacked protection, so each generation, the most beautiful girl in the village would be chosen to marry a strong awakened man to receive protection. Lu Xiangxiang was explaining to Lurena that the newborns of each generation were the future of their village, so that's why the flavonoids were important. Lurena had a doubtful look on his face, and he asked where the strong who protect the village were and why Lu Xiangxiang and her sister were tasked to deliver the supplies when someone else would have been a better choice. Lu Xiangxiang blushed and said that she had Mr. Nape to protect her. Lurena realized what the enumeration, the dowry meant, and they left the village in search of a blind date. He criticized her for choosing Nape, but she defended her choice, saying that he was a white silver-level escort, handsome, and skillful. Their conversation died when Lurena suddenly turned silent, sensing that something was wrong. Lu Xiangxiang questioned him about what was wrong and what he was doing, but he said that there was no time to explain, and she should just follow him. They arrived at the scene where Nape's bike was overturned. As Lu Xiangxiang and Lurena approached the scene, they saw a huge monkey beast lying lifeless on the ground with a splatter of blood beside it. While Lurena was relaxed and recognized that Nape had killed quite a lot of monkeys, this scene alarmed Lu Xiangxiang. She wondered where Nape was, and when Lurena replied that it was not a good omen, her face was filled with horror. Lu Xiangxiang thought about the flavonoids and the babies of their village, and her distress was apparent as she knelt to the ground and didn't know what to do. The village had saved up for a long time to buy those medical supplies, and Mr. Nape was also gone. Lurena presumed that a high-class demonic beast must have appeared, but he did not expect Nape to be so useless that he was not able to hold on for more than a few seconds. Lu Xiangxiang rummaged through Nape's bike in the hopes that the flavonoids might be there, but to her dismay, Nape kept it on him. She sobbed when she did not find it in the bike. Lurena told her to get up and hurry so they could catch up to the beast and get back the medical supplies. However, he was cut off mid-sentence when he noticed a trail of blood on the other side of the road. Lu Xiangxiang was puzzled when Lurena told her that they were going to catch up to them because Nape was a white-silver escort, and he was not able to deal with them. With his back towards her and a game face on, Lurena cut her off as he already predicted that she was worried that he was only a black iron escort. He reassured her that he was the strongest black iron escort and they needed to act fast to retrieve the medical supplies before it was too late. In an abandoned warehouse, Nape woke up and found himself hung upside down from the building's ceiling. Below him were disfigured bodies of humans fused into demonic beasts' bodies, and the two-horned beast seemed to be the one experimenting on them. It was disappointed that another one of his experiments died. It threw its subject away, calling it trash, and turned to check on Nape. Nape screeched with horror as the face of the beast came up close with his face while asking him if he was awake. Nape squirmed vigorously, trying to escape from being tied up while he was negotiating with the beast to let him go in exchange for supplies, money, or food, but the beast just stood there staring at him. He pleaded that he didn't want to end up like its experimental subjects, but the beast told him that those are failures. He, as a white-silver escort, must stay alive. He asked the beast if it was planning to let him go, but it said that it prepared another experiment for him. Right on cue, two monkeys wearing false lashes, makeup, and a flower on their end came in, and the beast told the confused Nape that he was going to bear a child with them. A few meters away from the warehouse, Lurena and Lu Xiangxiang were scouting the area when they heard Nape's scream for help. Lu Xiangxiang was worried about what they were doing to him while looking through the binoculars, while Lurena was calmly sipping on his hot water again while pointing out how funny the monkey's false eyelashes were. Lu Xiangxiang asked Lurena if the plan was to find an opportunity to sneak in, but she was not able to finish talking as he interrupted her with his question. He asked her with a very serious face, asking if she had ever seen the insignia on the beast's back before. She said she hadn't and asked him why. She probed further, but he did not respond and changed the subject by directing her attention to the monkeys in the ruins. He said that the ruins are fully occupied by demonic beasts, but there was no news in the Union about it. Thus he concluded that the Monkey King could control that group of demonic beasts really well. He found himself in a troublesome situation because he'll have to get past the group of monkeys before they could fight the Monkey King. But if they were to kill it, the demonic beasts under its control would run rampant and the villages nearby would be in danger, and to top it all up, his ability has a time limit. Lurena noticed that Lu Xiangxiang started to worry about Mr. Nape and the medical supplies again, so he told her not to worry as the Monkey King was no big deal, it was just troublesome if they attacked one by one. While finishing his sentence, Lurena noticed something and he leaned in towards Lu Xiangxiang and sniffed her, telling her that she smells good with a funny look on his face. Moments later, Lu Xiangxiang found herself tied up and was hanging from the jib of a tower crane. She was mad and was demanding Lurena to put her down, but he said that the demonic beast should gather so that it wouldn't be hard for him to deal with them. She protested and questioned what the point of her being tied up was, and he told her that she'll have to be bait for a while so he could wipe them all out in one go. Outside the warehouse, Nape's shirt was now completely torn, and he was still helplessly screaming to get the demonic beasts away from him. Suddenly, the two monkeys stopped what they were doing, and this baffled Nape. He was wondering what was going on when the monkeys started running away from him, and towards a certain direction. The Monkey King's eyes widened as he recognized the scent that was attracting the monkeys. A horde of monkeys came charging and were now climbing the building Lu Xiangxiang was hanging from. She was puzzled and asked Lurena why there were suddenly so many demonic beasts, but he indifferently told her to stop faking as he knew that she was aware of the reason why. She was still strongly in denial, but as he lifted a detached crane mast and threw it towards the demonic beasts below them, he told her that she was a chosen awakener, and her awakened ability was related to smell. His words caught her off guard, and she was not able to say anything. She was only able to stare at him with a questioning look on her face. He was smiling and pointing to his nose adorably, as he explained that she still couldn't control her ability well, and even though only a slight trace of her scent was leaked, it was enough for him and the monkeys to smell it, and now they are coming after her scent. A chosen awakener are those who are born with supernatural abilities. They possess power far beyond that of an ordinary awakener, but their powers are uncontrollable, so the Union hunts them once they are discovered. Lu Xiangxiang did not move or say anything when Lu Renjia told her that if she didn't want her secret to be exposed, she should just obediently hang there for a while. Something caught Lu Renjia's attention. The Monkey King appeared below them, along with the other demonic beasts, and it looked delighted to have found a chosen awakener. The Monkey King hideously laughed as it found the situation marvelous and said that she was so much better than the white-silver escort. Lu Renjia stepped towards the edge of the building as he agreed with the Monkey King. He threw his jacket in the air. His hair and arms started blazing with fire. His eyes turned bright red, as he expressed his satisfaction that the Monkey King had finally arrived. The Monkey King was taken aback by his aura and asked him who he was, while Lu Xiangxiang was also surprised and questioned him if he really was a black iron escort. He gave her a smile and confirmed that he definitely was, and jumped off the building, lunging towards the Monkey King below. At the Peach Blossom Village, her big sister was giving little Lu Xiangxiang a warning that she must not reveal her identity because the Federation will hunt her, imprison her as an experiment subject, and maybe even kill her. Lu Xiangxiang asked her sister what she would do if someone accidentally found out, and her sister told her that she must kill the person before they reveal her secret. Smokes and explosions were everywhere as Lu Renjia was single-handedly fighting with the entire horde of demonic beasts down below. Multiple monkeys swarmed on top of him, but he deflected all of them effortlessly. Lu Xiangxiang thought of the warning her sister gave her, and she immediately realized that it was impossible as he was way too strong. The Monkey King was taken aback by Lu Renjia's overwhelming strength and asked him if he was an enhancement-type awakener. Lu Renjia raised his hands into the air, and he summoned a claw-looking aura that shredded the bodies of the monkeys mobbing towards him. Chopped monkey body parts were flying around. He faced the Monkey King and answered that it was half right. The Monkey King was surprised, and its expression turned to delight when it realized that Lu Renjia could be a dual awakener. It was pleased and laughed as its day was full of surprises and told Lu Renjia that it never encountered such physique, so it would make sure to cherish him as his experimental subject. It looked down on Lu Renjia and asked him if he thought he could fight him just because he killed a group of little monkeys. The Monkey King decided that Lu Renjia was impressive, so he was worthy to witness his true strength. It started bulging up and waves of aura swept through the surroundings, creating a gust of wind. The wind reached Lu Xiangxiang, who was still hanging at the top of the building. She was overwhelmed and wondered if such was the strength of a super-class demonic beast. The Monkey King heard her, his face distorted into a smile, saying that he's much stronger than any ordinary super-class demonic beast. Lu Renjia tried to interrupt it to ask a question, but it kept babbling, asking him to join them as the experiment would make him stronger. Before it could finish its speech, Lu Renjia punched it so hard that it flew towards the top of another building, while asking why it wasn't done talking and told it that it spoke so much that it was annoying. Meanwhile, Nape was standing in front of the warehouse where he had been left earlier. His arms were crossed, and it seemed like he was deep in thought. When he realized that he was just standing there, he suddenly sprinted and said he should hurry up and escape. He was only able to take a few steps when he noticed the silhouette of the Monkey King approaching him, but to his surprise, it crashed into the ground with great impact that he was blown away by it. Lu Renjia arrived right after the crash, and the startled Nape was standing behind him while he was interrogating the Monkey King, asking it what the water bear was and its objective. The Monkey King tried to play dumb, pretending not to know what he meant, so Lu Renjia glared at it, telling it to stop pretending as he knows that the insignia on its back was a water bear. Lu Renjia was surprised when it confessed that it was once an escort. It said that it suddenly woke up in an experiment glass with its memory gone, and when it followed its body's intuition, it found the group of demonic beasts where its body was the leader of. It attempted to return to the human village, but no one was willing to come near, nor interact with it, so he was very lonely. As Nape heard the Monkey King's story, he realized the purpose of its experiments. It did not have anyone of its kind, so it was creating them. With a sinister look on its face, the Monkey King told them that his experiment would be a success this time with the three of them, but Lurena sarcastically retorted that it was a good idea to stitch them. Lurena bargained with the Monkey King to answer his last question in exchange for Nape. It doubted his sincerity but proceeded to criticize the offer and called Nape the weakest option. Both were ignoring the protesting Nape behind them. Lurena asked it if it remembered where it woke up. It proudly answered that he did. He even went back once, and as it started to describe the location, saying it was in the west, but its body suddenly started swelling up so much, to the point that its body imploded. Blood splattered everywhere, including Lurena's clothes, which surprised him. Lurena was disappointed while looking at the pool of blood left in the area, with Nape behind him, asking if he was seriously going to give him to the beast. At the Peach Blossom Village, Lu Xiangxiang was warmly welcomed by the residents, asking why she was alone and if she encountered any danger. She mentioned that she encountered danger but was able to bring the supplies back thanks to the help of an elite. As they heard the word elite, all their attention went towards the now shabby-looking Nape. They crowded around him and praised his physique, as he proudly introduced himself as Nape, a white silver-level escort, but Lu Xiangxiang, who was watching from the sidelines, felt like the residents were describing an animal with their praises. Lu Xiangxiang recalled the time when she parted ways with Lurena, where he said that she could rest assured now that they knew each other's little secrets. Her face was filled with dread when she recalled the remainder of the memory where her sister was warning her. She asked what she would do if she couldn't kill the person who knows her identity, and her sister responded that there would be no other choice but to marry him. At the same time, Lurena sneezed and thought if the old man was scolding behind his back. He was now traveling towards the west to look for clues. While complaining because the West was so big, he was also complaining about the insignia that he has and questioned why the old man couldn't prepare a higher level one for him. Mankind has been reduced from the apex predator to the lowest level, and during the beginning of the apocalypse, mankind relied on leftover food found in the wilderness to survive until mankind gathered together and built base towns. Towns with different functions play their roles as respective organs, while the blood circulating through them is the circulation and operation of supplies which escorts are in charge of. A group of escorts was traveling across the city ruins, and one of them was complaining to their boss that he couldn't work anymore due to hunger and suggested that they should find something to eat. The boss turned to ask the sixth brother if they still had anything left to eat. He responded that they were already out of dry food and medicine, as Aoyang, the one in charge of those supplies, was killed when they crossed the river. The boss sighed in surrender and told them to spread out and find something to eat. They all exclaimed in agreement, and the boss cautioned them to be quiet and not alert any demonic beasts. The boss stood guard and was worried about this escorted journey that took them a week, and 12 of his brothers were sacrificed for it. He thought that he had to reward the survivors when they got back. One of them returned holding a cockroach the size of his torso. Although no one knew what it was, everyone looked at it with disgust and questioned if they could really eat it. The guy holding the cockroach grabbed one of its legs and said that it was a cockroach, the world's most tenacious creature. Everyone gathered around him as he started munching on it. He said that he heard that it tasted like chicken, very crunchy. They eagerly asked him if it really tasted like chicken, and the realization suddenly hit him. He doesn't know what chicken tastes like, and the boss realized that it must have been old Lu who taught him all that information. The guy confirmed that old Lu did, and the atmosphere turned gloomy as they remembered their old leader that died years ago, so the guy proposed that they should not talk about it anymore. He added that he was also told that the cockroaches live in groups, so if they look around, there should be enough for all of them. At that moment, a swarm of cockroaches appeared behind the guy and the rest of the group was startled. He tried to warn the guy, who was their second brother, but it was too late. The cockroaches flocked towards him and munched on him until only his bones remained. As the rest of the group was fending off the cockroaches, the boss tried to hold the cockroaches back so his other brothers could retreat with the parcels they were carrying. The sixth brother called out to the boss, and when he looked back, he saw a gigantic cockroach leg pierced through his chest. The sixth brother was dragged away by the legs in his chest and he yelled, telling his boss to run and not to worry about him. The boss was startled when a gigantic cockroach emerged from the direction where the sixth brother was dragged, and the sixth brother could still be seen dangling from one of its legs. On the outskirts of the city, Lurena suddenly stepped on a huge cockroach, the one as big as a human's torso. He looked down and was awestruck at how big it was. The leader faced the gigantic cockroach and told his brothers to run as he held the beast's back. The leader did not last that long as the gigantic cockroach immediately impaled his back with its legs, piercing through the chest. Only 2 of the escorts remained and they were killing off the smaller beasts with their guns, but the beasts just kept on increasing. The black-haired guy told the blonde to take the parcels and go. The blonde tried to protest, and he was about to cry when the black-haired guy ran out of bullets. The blonde did not know what to do, but the black-haired guy seemed to have made his resolve. He apologized to the blonde guy that he had to encounter this problem on his first escort mission. Then he reminded him and made him understand that the duty of an escort was to deliver the parcels at all cost, all the while holding a grenade in his hand. The blonde tried to hold back his tears as he confirmed that he understood. The black-haired guy told the blonde that if he understood then he have to go, as the gigantic cockroach started peeking from the tall building in front of them. The black-haired guy tried to get the attention of the beasts by spreading his arms, revealing the inside of his cloak that was full of explosives. The black-haired guy, which was the third brother, exploded, but the gigantic cockroach remained unharmed. The blonde closed his eyes and cursed as he was running away from the beast when he came across Lurena. The blonde was shocked that someone was there and immediately asked Lurena if he was an escort, to which Lurena proudly confirmed, adding that he's the strongest black iron level escort. The blonde was glad and immediately asked for Lurena's help as he handed him the parcel. He introduced himself as Ying, an escort from the Yutang escort agency, and formally asked Lurena to help him complete the escort mission, but Lurena was not listening to him as something caught his attention. Ying continued to explain the situation to Lurena, that there were 32 escorts in their agency and he's the only one left, and because he's injured and no longer have the energy to run, he'll hold off the demonic beasts that were catching up to him, so Lurena should hurry up and leave and send the parcel to the town head. Lurena have his back turned to Ying. His hair started blazing red as he told Ying to wait a moment. He placed his huge bag to the ground and switched to a punching position and demolished the beast in the blink of an eye. Ying's eyes widened while Lurena immediately turned his attention back to him and apologized for not listening, his hair now turning back to its normal color. Lurena showed his appreciation towards escorts like Ying's group, but Ying did not hear it and asked what he was saying just now, so he just waved it off as nothing. As they stood in front of Ying's comrades' makeshift graves, Ying thanked him and invited him to go together to report to the Union and for the remuneration. Lurena refused and told Ying that he didn't need it, but he timidly asked Ying to show him the way as he had been wandering aimlessly for days, while showing the map in his hands. Later, news was spreading that the platinum-level Crimson Shura god of the Dragon City's Tinder bases has mysteriously disappeared. The Union hasn't received any reports about him for almost a year. People were gathering in front of a missing poster of a man with blazing crimson wings as they speculate on what could have happened to someone who can destroy the entire Tianfu base in one blow. Lurena was standing behind those people when someone pushed him and told him to get out of the way and step aside. A man in a suit recognized Lurena and called him the strongest black iron level escort, with emphasis on the strongest, and asked him if he wanted to duke it out with the Crimson Shura as he was very concerned about the news. Lurena sighed and told them that it was hard to say if he could beat the Crimson Shura, but a tie should be possible. He then told them to have fun chatting and bid farewell, saying that he's going for his next mission. The people in the building started mocking him, calling him trash, and saying that he should watch his back. He simply smiled while taking a sip at his hot water and told them that it was such a pity that they mock him for being insane while he mocks them for not being able to see the Crimson Shura's true intentions, and he told them that they should take this opportunity to write a letter of duel and win without fighting. The people started laughing and called him shameless, but he paid them no mind this time as he examined the announcement board. He recalled Ying's instruction that the place he was looking for was at the east side for the Tianfu base, near a town called Zhanghua, thus he needed to find a mission to the east to avoid alerting the enemy. He was staring into space when an announcement about hiring black iron escorts for a mission towards the east side of the base. It caught Lurena's attention as it was the mission he was just talking about. The lady up on the podium stated that the mission was to escort Miss Yurong to Zhanghua town, but there was a special requirement for this mission. She pulled the curtain that was covering the item beside her, revealing a sweating, voluptuous and beautiful lady inside a cylindrical cabin. The announcer said that aside from Miss Yurong, they must also escort the cabin she's in as Miss Yurong cannot leave it due to some special reasons. The men in the crowd went haywire as they stared at Miss Yurong's plump chest, and everyone was eager to volunteer. Miss Yurong thanked everyone for their interest, but she reminded them that there was no road to walk on and there are all sorts of terrains towards Zhanghua town, so she was looking for an escort who could carry her along with the cabin throughout the entire journey. The eagerness of the men in the crowd died down as they realized the arduous task needed to be done for this mission. Lurena suddenly appeared on stage and pressed his face to the cabin, saying that they don't need so many people as he can do the mission on his own. This frightened Miss Yurong, who thought that he was a ghost. The announcer reprimanded Lurena and told him that he shouldn't come on stage without permission. The crowd were also mad at him, and they started throwing things at him. One of the escorts criticized him for saying that he could carry the cabin by himself, but the bald escort thought that his idea to keep the girl all to himself was genius. He flexed his muscles and loudly announced that he was a strength-type awakener, so he was the only one who could complete the escort mission. He came up on stage and tied a rope to the cabin while telling Lurena to step aside. He was able to lift the cabin a few inches on the ground and the crowd cheered, but he was clearly struggling to breathe and the veins on his head were popping out. He was sweating profusely as he told Miss Yurong that he was alright, and he'd be sure to take her to her destination no matter how many months it would take. Miss Yurong told him to wait a moment and asked if it would really need that long to travel, and she also clarified that she did not say that she was only hiring one escort. Lurena, who was standing behind the bald escort, was grinning devilishly as he seemed to have moved his hand rapidly that no one was able to notice. The bald escort suddenly dropped to the ground saying that he twisted his waist, and the crowd told him that's what he got for acting cool. When the bald escort claimed that something definitely hit his waist, Lurena looked away and whistled like he knows nothing about what just happened. Miss Yurong was showing concern for the bald escort, asking him if he was alright. Lurena took the opportunity to proudly declare that he was the strongest Black Iron level escort, so she should be rest assured and leave it to him. The announcer stepped in and expressed her doubt on his capabilities as the strength-type escort was not able to carry the cabin. The crowd agreed with her and demanded for him to stop acting all high and mighty and get down. Some even bet to eat the kin on the spot if he could lift the cabin as he was skinny as the clothes rail. Lurena smiled and proposed a bet to Miss Yurong, saying that if he could carry her to the main entrance, she would assign him as the mission's escort. Miss Yurong looked like she was having qualms about it, but she agreed. Lurena smiled as the deal was agreed upon. He then told everyone to move aside as it was time for delivery while he keeled the cylinder cabin to its side and rolled it towards the main entrance. Everyone panicked and ran away towards the entrance to make way, while poor Miss Yurong was disoriented as she rolled along with her cabin. The cabin stopped rolling at the main entrance and Miss Yurong immediately asked if the living cabin had not broken as soon as she got up. Lurena sat on top of the cabin and told her not to worry as it was still in good condition and proceed to brag that he is able to carry her to the main entrance with a grin on his face, but Miss Yurong was enraged with what he have done, as well as the crowd who almost got crushed. Lurena laughed awkwardly as he realized that he had aroused public outrage and Miss Yurong was threatening him that the crowd would be settling things with him now. Lurena paid the threats no mind and started to wrap a rope around Miss Yurong's cabin, which caused her to frantically ask him to stop what he was doing, but he did not stop, and he simply reminded her of their bet. The crowd stopped on their tracks, and they were astonished when they saw Lurena effortlessly carry the cabin with only one hand, like it was his backpack. With a satisfied look on his face, he turned towards Miss Yurong and told her that they were going. Miss Yurong blushed, she couldn't say a word and she looked like she still could not believe what was happening. A while later, in an unknown valley, a flock of vile birds herded to Miss Lu and she frightfully told them not to come near her. She desperately asked Lurena to do something instead of just walking. However, he simply told her not to worry because it was just 2 birds. Miss Lu retorted it was easy for him to say such, but she found them annoying and pleaded with him to get rid of them. Lurena thought of it and proposed that he do her wish, but she needed to answer a question first. Without waiting for a reply, he asked her what was the purpose of her visit to Manhwa town. Miss Lu's eyes darted to the side as she wondered why he asked her such a question. He would receive the remuneration once he escorted her safely, and based on the rules and regulations of the Union, he was not allowed to ask the question. Lurena was fine with it but voiced his intention to roll her down the road to arrive at the town faster. Flustered, Miss Lu threatened Lurena that she complained to the Union, to which he innocently replied he would not dare threaten her. Without hesitation, he lifted up Miss Lu, saying he simply wanted to increase the efficiency of the journey, so she fell into a panic and told him to stop and said he would go there to see a doctor for treatment. Lurena looked at her, clarifying what was the treatment for. Miss Lu revealed there was a doctor who lived in seclusion in Manhwa town. It is said that he had excellent medical skill and was good at treating intractable diseases, so if her disease interested him, she might receive free medical treatment. Her answer piqued Lurenjia's attention. A while ago, he had a conversation with Nape about an escort who failed during awakening, so he went to a doctor in seclusion for free treatment but went missing in the end. Lurenjia fell deep into his thoughts but did not remember hearing of such a person who conducted research on awakened abilities. Nape snorted and was about to say it was normal because he was a mere black iron level. However, remembering how Lurenjia disposed of the monstrosities, he changed his words and replied it was normal if he had never heard of a minor character since he was an Iron Blood War god. At this moment, Lurenjia thought of the free doctor Miss Lu wanted to visit and was instantly shocked. Suddenly, a giant bird screeched and Miss Lu questioned why Lurenjia was still staring blankly ahead. The bird was about to claw over at Miss Lu, but Lurenjia was quick to stop its advance. He firmly held the bird's claw, causing it to tremble all over. The next second, he smashed into the ground, calling it a bastard. Lurenjia asked if Miss Lu was alright when a crack in the glass suddenly popped. Lurenjia was surprised, and when he looked at Miss Lu, she told him to run as smoke slowly emitted through her head. Looking at the small fire on her chest, he asked her if she was alright. Lurenjia looked at her pitiful appearance and questioned why did she get a low-quality cabin that broke easily after he placed it down. Miss Lu clenched her teeth as she urged him to go and forget about her. Lurenjia fell silent, but the cabin thoroughly collapsed and Miss Lu's power started to erupt from her body. She could not control it anymore, so she told Lurenjia to run, and the further it was the better. However, water suddenly poured down on her head. Lurenjia asked if water was enough as he wondered if this was her awakened ability. However, Miss Lu erupted and questioned him why he did not run. She cursed regretfully as it was already too late. Lurenjia looked at her as she burst into flames, burning everything around. As her uncontrollable power exploded, she roared in guilt. She did it again. She had already told him to quickly run, but she was still unable to save him. If this continues, the entire mountain will be set on fire and the villagers nearby will be implicated, so she decides to find a way to control her powers. Suddenly, Lurenjia replied her fire was impressive, and he agreed that they should find a way. She was shocked to see him without a single burn. He asserted he was the strongest black iron level escort and admitted he was frightened nonetheless, so she asked if he could think of any ideas. He thought about it and mentioned she could perhaps try something. He snapped his finger and summoned his blood armor. He approached her, but she yelled not to touch her. However, he easily carried her and reasoned they could not get to where they were going if he did not touch her, so she wondered if he would not get burned. He simply told her to hang on tightly as he burst through the forest with lightning speed. In a flash, they arrived before a lake, which made Miss Lu confused. Without hesitation, Lurenjia violently threw her into the lake so she could only scream as she fell into the water with a plop. He patiently looked at the water's surface when it gradually rumbled from where she fell. Suddenly, a loud explosion occurred, sending a fish into his face as he concluded it was effective. However, the whole lake started boiling, although she just soaked in it for a while. Moments later, the lake continued to boil as Lurenjia asked her if she was okay now. With an abashed expression, she answered she was alright. She explained that when her body comes in contact with the external environment, her skin's temperature will keep rising. Once the temperature reaches a critical point, her body will burn. The longer the time, the higher the body temperature becomes, and the harder it is to extinguish the fire. Lurenjia replied that the strength of the flame is at least gold level, which is a pretty good ability. Miss Lu soaked herself in the water but suddenly remembered the past. She once lived in a village in the far west, and it was attacked by demonic beasts all year round. The beasts fed on their food and assaulted the villagers. At first, the villagers could still rely on the weapons from before the catastrophe to defend against the beasts. However, the beasts gradually became stronger until they were no match, and consequently, the village chief chanced upon a magical medicine, declaring that it could help everyone to awaken ordinary powers. Nevertheless, no one could withstand the medicine and the beast could not be held back anymore. They were running out of time, and there was only one last bowl, so the chief told the man it was his turn. The man called Erchan lamented that the chief must be joking as there were so many people who died from drinking it and he had a family to take care of, so he declined the chief's orders. At this moment, everyone pointed at Miss Lu as she was an orphan, and since the village had raised her, they urged her to repay their kindness. She was hesitant, but the villagers mentioned her parents being killed by the beasts and she should avenge them, so she eventually decided to drink it. She drank the medicine and afterward, gradually erupted in flames, which made the villagers surprised as she did not collapse, and they wondered if it was a success. The chief rebuked everyone for being busybody and hurried them to go as the beast was now approaching. At this moment, Miss Lu's body started to blaze with flame. She was left alone to face the beast, and everyone placed their hopes upon her. Miss Lu profusely sweated as she thought of their actions. Her control of herself started to lose. The beast moved toward her as the villagers peeked at the door, ready to witness the birth of their savior. However, a pillar of flame burst forth through the sky and it incinerated everything around it, sending the beast and humans alike to hell. A while later, Miss Lu walked out amidst the flames. She found her fellow villagers had been burned to a crisp. At that moment, she was thoroughly overpowered. Presently, she stated how Lurena thought of her ability as a pretty good one. However, she wished she had never drunk that soup as she would not possess such a horrible ability. She further added that someone like Lurena would not understand how she felt. Lurena sighed and replied maybe she was right. He advised her not to overthink as it was all fate at the end, which left her out of words. Moments later, Miss Lu questioned if he really was only a black iron level escort, as her flame can even burn an SSR class demonic beast to ashes, but he did not even have a single scratch. Lurena confirmed without hesitation, he was the strongest black iron level escort. Miss Lu stared at him and revealed he was as strong as the person who put her into the living cabin, and that person's arms were covered with scales. Lurena turned serious as he hurriedly grabbed Miss Lu closer and he asked her the person's appearance, and it was the one who told her to go to Manhwa town. Miss Lu's eyes widened in shock and described that the person was wearing a gas mask and she could not see his face. The person grabbed her neck, causing her to lose consciousness from the chilly air as he told her she was sick and advised her to see the doctor in Manhwa town for help. Miss Lu frightfully asked Lurena if he knew the person as well, however, his eyes were focused on her chest. She also looked down and was immediately shamed. Fire blazed all over her and another massive explosion erupted. Miss Lu hurriedly swam into the lake and accused him of being a pervert as his hair burned to a crisp, but he reasoned he was innocently deep in thought. She hurriedly brought back the topic and revealed that the person also carried her to the town base and left her some money to hire an escort. Lurena asked if there were any weird-looking symbols on the man, but she did not notice anything. Lurena thought for a moment and decided to set out to meet the doctor. However, she brought up the problem that without the living cabin, she could not get out of the water. It was then that Lurena thought of an idea. Moments later, Lurena could be seen carrying a huge water jar with Miss Lu inside and her face in disbelief. She complained about what she was put in, but he retorted she should be grateful that he found something after going so far. However, Miss Lu was unconvinced and asked if he was trying to get revenge, to which he replied she should just bear with, so she declared she would definitely file a complaint about him to the union. Meanwhile, a doctor seemed to be delighted with the fine and warm day. Soon, his new patient should be arriving. Later, Lurena arrived at a barren place where they did not even find a demonic beast. He found it strange that there were no traces of movement, which was too abnormal. Miss Lu wondered if the place they arrived at was the right one, as she wondered if the doctor was there. He assured her it was right, but if they had to walk around the ruins to find the place would be a little difficult. However, they suddenly noticed a building so eye-catching. Later, they arrived at the building and Lurena knocked on its door. Miss Lu wondered if anyone was there when a group of people suddenly burst out of the door as they asked if someone wanted to see the doctor. They frantically welcomed him as they invited him to come in. They pulled him inside to arrange a body checkup first before the surgery. They also inquired about what kind of room he liked and suggest they could live together if he wanted. Right then, the doctor came and reprimanded the group for being noisy in the hospital. As everyone bowed their heads to apologize, the doctor noticed Lurena. He realized he was the reason for the liveliness and welcomed him. He introduced himself as Chi-like as he asked how could he help. Lurena revealed he was just an escort, pulling the rope tied in the water jar. After putting it down, Miss Lu emerged from the water and greeted everyone. Chi-like stared at her as he asked what the problem was and why she was inside a water jar. Pulling her hand out of the water, she urged the doctor to take a look. The next second, her hand blazed into flames. This interested Chi-like and recognized it as a transformation type ability. He now realized she was soaked in the water because she could not control the ability at her own will. Chi-like muttered it seemed to be the after effect of an incomplete awakening caused by an impure medicine. Miss Lu gasped and was impressed by the doctor's words. Chi-like then beckoned at one of his men as he decided to go in and talk over the details. Right then, the man's muscle veins bulged as he lifted the water jar. Entering the hospital, Chi-like remembered Lurena and with a sinister smile, he asked if he wanted to do a body checkup as well. Lurena declined and replied he was perfectly fine, but the man behind him revealed a terrifying aura. Suddenly, sharp claws emerged from the man's hand as he roared at Lurena that he should not go against the doctor's decision. The man brandished his claws with a hideous smile, but Lurena effortlessly evaded it. Afterward, he smashed the water jar's lid into the man's head, shattering it to pieces. The man screamed as he held his head and frantically asked what was wrong. Lurena pouted and questioned why the man stole his line. At the same time, the doctor hurriedly came back and inquired about what was going on. He approached the man and ordered him to leave as he was being rude to the guest. After the man left in dejection, the doctor apologized and asked if Lurena was hurt. Lurena replied that just because he refused to do a body checkup, they wanted to rip his body apart. The doctor sweated and denied the words since there was a cause he wanted him to stay. He reasoned that the patients have some mental disorders and they do things impulsively and unrhythmically, so he was afraid of putting Miss Lu in their care. Lurena asked the doctor what he was trying to say. The doctor answered that Miss Lu would also need to be escorted after she was treated, and it was not easy to find an escort in the village, and further added that he would not find any local products. He invited Lurena to come in for a while for a cup of tea while waiting for the operation to be completed instead of wasting time strolling around. Sitting lazily on the chair, Lurena wondered why he ended up here when only wanted to avoid them and sneak in. He finds the doctor very suspicious, but he cannot see his true colors, so he decides to seek a chance to look around the place later. As he smelled the tea, he noticed something wrong with it, so he poured it back into the pot. Throwing away his cup, he declared the hospital definitely was unusual. As he walked along the hallway, he proceeded to find Miss Lu first, as he could not let the doctor treat whatever illness she had. Suddenly, he saw Miss Lu's figure, and he called out to her, asking why her body was not burning anymore and if her illness was really cured. Miss Lu replied affirmatively, saying she was fully cured. Afterward, she turned to him, and with a blushed expression, she thanked him for escorting her and saving her life. As she went closer, she told him that his kindness should be repaid, and she had already thought about it for a while. Revealing her chest, she offered her delicate body in return. Lurena's face warped into frustration as his hand buzzed with lightning. Without hesitation, he punched his face, yelling to snap out of it. Consequently, everything before him shattered like glass as he cursed the doctor. He was cautious this whole time, but he was still fooled by an illusion. Suddenly, mechanical arms emerged ahead of him, and their hideous cannon-like mouths targeted him. Lurena remarked that the products he had come for were not from the local area. However, he found himself surrounded by demonic beasts and human skulls, standing in a room filled with water. In the meantime, one of the patients with spiky hair asked another patient with a bowl cut if they really had to release all the demonic beasts just for an escort. The one with the bowl cut appeared uneasy but responded that they had to release it as well. Upon hearing this, the patient with spiky hair was surprised and began to sweat profusely as he tried to confirm if he had heard correctly. The one with the bowl cut continued to explain that they had to do this because the doctor couldn't determine the strength of that particular guy. Although the patient with spiky hair was reluctant, he released the beast anyway while warning it not to come looking for him if it wasn't full enough. The bowl cut guy became even more nervous and told him to shut up and just do what the doctor says. Suddenly, the door behind Lurena opened, revealing the silhouette of a gigantic beast with glaring red eyes. Meanwhile, at the doctor's laboratory, Miss Yurong lay on the operating table, attached to a plethora of medical cables. She asked the doctor why she wasn't burning, and the doctor, who had his back towards her and was preparing something, told her that he had injected a body temperature inhibitor to temporarily control her body temperature. While the doctor continued with his preparations, Miss Yurong asked him where her escort was and if he was coming. The doctor replied that Lurena had another mission, so he left first. Miss Yurong was puzzled because she hadn't received confirmation of the completion of the escort mission yet. The doctor told her that maybe he would come back later after he finished his other mission. Turning towards her, he asked what kind of treatment she wanted. Closing her eyes, Miss Yurong reminisced about the bodies she had scorched. She told the doctor that, if possible, she would like to return to the way she was before her ability awakened. With a sinister smile on his face, the doctor assured her that anything she wanted was possible. To ease her worries, he told her that everything would be better when she woke up. However, he then cuffed her to the medical bed, startling Miss Yurong. The doctor explained that it was to prevent her from moving too much due to pain and causing a mess in his laboratory. He gave her a friendly smile and reassured her that everything would be all right. Despite this, Miss Yurong felt uneasy and asked the doctor to wait for her escort to return before proceeding with the operation. However, the doctor refused and told her that it was all right. He then made a disturbing comment, saying that she could join him in hell once the treatment was over. He pressed a button and gave her a menacing smile that distorted his face. Miss Yurong screamed and writhed in pain as electricity coursed through her body. A white liquid began filling up a tube, and the doctor laughed hysterically, pleased with the results. He claimed that it was the key to the new world. All the while, Miss Yurong started to burn up behind him. Her mind started to drift towards her painful past. The village ostracized her for causing the death of her parents and forbid their children to play with her when she was still a child. When she grew up, wives attacked her and called her a loose woman for seducing their husbands. Lastly, the village pushed her to drink the medicine and had the audacity to call her their last hope. She was losing consciousness as she questioned the misfortunes that happened to her when she did not do anything at all. The doctor was still celebrating his results and was happy that the documents provided by his master were real when the spiky-haired patient interrupted him. Amidst all this, Miss Yurong clenched her hands onto Lurenjia's coat, asking for someone. The doctor reprimanded the spiky-haired patient for entering into his laboratory when he was told not to, but the patient was in a panic, pointing into the wall and mentioning the escort, which annoyed the doctor and told him to stop dilly-dallying. Cracks were created into the wall the patient was pointing to, and Lurenjia burst out of it, with the demonic beasts still wrapped in his body, telling them to get lost, and at that same time, Miss Yurong asked to be saved. One of the worm-like demonic beasts lunged towards Lurenjia, but he effortlessly caught it with one hand and ripped it apart, his expression remaining grim. After casually dropping the beast's body on the ground, the doctor and the spiky-haired patient were intimidated. The doctor hurriedly scolded the patient for not attacking Lurenjia and ordered him to do so while the patient complied, removing his shirt. As spiky bones sprouted from his forehead, neck, shoulders, down to his back and arms, the patient proudly presented his complete form and declared it to be a perfect combination of attack and defense. However, a huge hand suddenly burst out from the ground and grabbed him, causing him to cough up blood. Dumbfounded by this scenario, Lurenjia questioned them if they had raised the beast themselves. However, his shock turned to speechlessness as the beast munched off the head of the spiky-haired patient. He advised them to choose a well-tempered pet next time. The doctor was relieved to realize that Lurenjia was extraordinary and had made the decision to release the beast earlier when two other patients arrived at the laboratory. As the beast lunged towards Lurenjia with its mouth wide open and tongue hanging out, the doctor was thinking out loud on how they would lock the beast up after it killed Lurenjia. With swift movements, Lurenjia dodged the beast's attack, used its arm as support to gain momentum, and kicked its head out of its body, swiftly killing the beast. The doctor and the two other patients were astonished as the lifeless head of the beast landed in front of them, their faces showing their awareness of how deep in trouble they were. After landing on the ground and seeing the unconscious Miss Yurong, Lurenjia glared at them and reminded them of the consequences of touching an escort's parcel. His eyes and hair were not blazing red. The doctor was sweating and questioning Lurenjia for calling her his parcel when she was clearly a gift from his master. Terrified, the doctor quickly pushed his patients towards Lurenjia and ordered them to stop him, but they were reluctant and tried to protest. The doctor used his ability to make the two of them follow his orders. As the two patients attacked him, Lurenjia quickly realized that the doctor was a conceptual type ability user. He finished the fight with a punch to each patient. The doctor hurriedly left the laboratory, calling his patients a bunch of trash. Picking up his coat and covering Miss Yurong's body with it, Lurenjia checked on her and was relieved to find that she was fine and still breathing. Glaring at the doctor, who dared to harm his employer, he warned him not to think of running away. However, the doctor, who had his back turned towards Lurenjia, laughed as he held a syringe, saying that his experiment had already been completed. The doctor impaled himself with the syringe he was holding and told Lurenjia that he would now be the material. The doctor stood in front of Lurenjia, holding a syringe to his neck. Laughing menacingly, blood and a smoke-like substance oozed out of the wound. Suddenly, Lurenjia seemed to perceive something, and an explosion occurred. The laboratory was now in flames. Luckily, Lurenjia was quick-witted and managed to snatch Miss Yurong from the operation table. He protected her from the explosion and was now carrying her in his arms. When Lurenjia looked at the doctor again, he was surprised by the doctor's current state. The doctor's whole body was ablaze as he claimed he could duplicate Miss Yurong's ability. He explained that the chance of awakening the same ability by chance was no less than a miracle. Therefore, he proposed duplicating abilities by transplanting awakened genes, but the organization rejected his genius idea. The doctor was furious because everyone looked down on him, claiming it was impossible since someone had done similar experiments before. Only the master trusts him, and he was ecstatic that he had finally succeeded. From now on, no one would dare look down on him. Lurena looked disgusted by the doctor's shallow purpose. However, as he asked about the organization's true purpose, his expression changed to one of curiosity. He wondered why Miss Yurong was not burning, and the doctor told him that she had been injected with the secret formula of their organization, a body temperature inhibitor. Lurena thought it sounded like a good thing and carefully placed Miss Yurong's unconscious body on the ground. The flame burned intensely as the doctor became enraged by Lurena's words. He was surprised when he noticed his garment burning and mockingly asked how a person like him could understand their nobility. Lurena nonchalantly told the doctor that he might like to join their organization after listening to what their purpose was. Therefore, the doctor should just say it. However, the doctor yet again mocked him and told him that he was only worthy of being an experimental subject, and that would be his contribution to the organization. The doctor was startled when a part of the demonic beast that Lurena had ripped out earlier was sucked into his body. He did not know what was going on. It wasn't until he saw his body start to melt and absorb all the carcass around him that he realized something was wrong. Hysterically, he questioned how his theory and the master's information could be wrong. With his arms crossed and a bored face, Lurena told the doctor that he must now understand why other people told him it was not doable. Despite his new hideous form, the doctor was still in denial that his idea was not doable. He believed that what he was experiencing was just a small accident and that he could modify the formula or the material. Lurena cut him off and told him honestly that his current state looked very familiar. The doctor was distressed, still refusing to believe the idea, and told Lurena that he was talking nonsense. However, the words came directly from himself, admitting that he was the experimental subject. As the doctor was tormented by the thought and kept asking himself how that could be, Lurena tried to comfort him with open arms. He told him that he might have a way to cure him, as long as he changed his mind and told him the water bears purpose. The doctor's expression quickly changed into a sinister one while saying that he indeed changed his mind and decided not to let Lurena become his experimental material. He then launched a sneak attack towards Lurena and told him to go to hell. A blazing pillar of fire emerged. The doctor laughed menacingly and said he would burn Lurena until there was nothing left, not even ashes. With his eyeballs now on fire, he told Lurena that he was not worthy of being an experimental material for thinking of provoking the relationship between him and that master. Lurena's eyes gleamed from within the blazing pillar, and he called the doctor a bastard, which startled him. Sharp golden claws that looked like a dragon emerged from the pillar. As Lurena told the doctor that he was completely out of his mind, the claws landed on the doctor's body, and he was blown away by the impact. The doctor coughed up blood as he fell into the room where Lurena was trapped earlier. He lay down on the pool of water, surrounded by huge skulls. His expression turned to horror as he gazed upon Lurena's appearance. His hair was blazing like red feathers, and his armor looked like the setting sun. The doctor recognized his appearance from their files before. Crimson Shura was one of the 9 platinum-level awakeners from the Dragon City's Tinder base. Lurena dissolved the helmet part of his armor to speak with the doctor. He told him that if he had so much free time to read those messed-up documents, then he should consider consulting a psychologist. The doctor did not expect the situation he was in. He trembled in fear as he asked Lurena not to kill him. As he looked upon the doctor with a sullen face, he asked if he believed he could save him now. He told the doctor that he had another question to ask. The doctor interrupted Lurena mid-sentence. He could not believe he was being given another chance and told him to ask away. As Lurena recalled the story of an escort mission by the Dragon Gate escort agency that went missing along with the escorts, his eyes glowered. He asked the doctor if he knew about the incident. With sweat dripping down his face, the doctor nervously told Lurena that a minor character like him wouldn't be able to access such confidential information. Lurena's face was now calm as he pushed for more information by asking the doctor if the incident had anything to do with their organization. The doctor told him that he had read relevant reports about it in the documents given by the organization, and they were kept in the warehouse beside them, but he hadn't had the time to read through most of them. While Lurena's attention was on the warehouse, a huge hand loomed over him and was about to hit him. Behind him was the doctor, who merged with more carcass, yelling that this was his chance. The doctor's sinister expression was back, and he told Lurena that he was not foolish to believe that he would spare his life when he revealed his true identity before him. The doctor's body yet again blazed, and he told Lurena that he was not sick, and that his current state was the future of mankind. He was celebrating his victory and told Lurena that he did not notice when he quietly merged with the pet his master gave him. Now, he possesses so many abilities, so if he keeps on merging, he will become a god of the world. The doctor was startled when Lurena interrupted his monologue and corrected him that he did actually notice. Lurena told the doctor that he just did not care, as he proceeded to dismember the doctor's mutilated body. Lurena mockingly laughed at the word god as he landed on the pool of water. As his armor dissipated, he crossed his arms and informed the lifeless doctor that this was precisely why he had advised him to consult a psychologist. A pre-recorded video depicting the suffering of humanity since the catastrophe began played in the background while Miss Yurong lay unconscious on a makeshift bed on the ground. This promotional video, created by the Water Bear organization, featured a person wearing a gas mask and a cloak, who referred to their organization as the true savior of the world. After the masked individual introduced themselves in the video, they requested a password for more information. Consequently, Lurena, who had been watching the video to gather more intel, became annoyed as he attempted to guess and enter a password. Disappointed, Lurena walked away from the console, grumbling about the preachy approach and the trouble he had gone through. Since the password he entered was incorrect, the system locked up. He then proceeded to search through drawers for useful documents. During his search, he discovered the secret formula the doctor had mentioned and decided to take some for Miss Yurong. However, as he picked up the medicine, he noticed that it was labeled aspirin, which was merely a common fever remedy. Despite his complaints, he still took some, and while doing so, he spotted a notebook. At first glance, the diary appeared to be filled with rambling nonsense, but upon closer inspection, Lurena found an entry about the organization planning to raid a group of escorts at the border. Their aim was to capture high-quality experimental subjects. The entry also mentioned an escort couple with sensitive identities who nearly caused the operation to fail. Consequently, the organization decided to put them into a deep sleep. Lurena's thoughts then drifted back to the events that had taken place a year prior at Dragon City's Tinder base. Multiple men tried to calm him down and convince him not to go, but he sent them all flying through the air. With his crimson-colored blazing eyes and hair, he inquired if he appeared calm and demanded to know who had instructed the men to restrain him. As one of the men attempted to pacify him and answer his question, another individual leaped from behind and landed a palm heel strike on Lurena. He was sent flying with force, causing damage to the ground. Cursing at the old man while standing up, Lurena faced Master Huang, who revealed that he had been the one to ask the men to hold him back. The men breathed a sigh of relief upon his arrival. With a grim expression, Lurena was about to ask Master Huang if he knew about the situation, but he was interrupted mid-sentence. Master Huang informed him, however, that he knew Uncle Mo and Aunt Huang, who had raised him, were leading the escort team at that time. As Lurena attempted to ask another question about why this was the case, Master Huang interrupted him once more. He explained that the couple were gold-level escorts, and although the Dragon Gate Escort Agency had formidable forces, they were still raided and none of them were found afterward. Consequently, he asked Lurena what he thought he would be able to discover if he went there. Gradually, Lurena sat down on the ground, appearing to have calmed down as he analyzed Master Huang's words. Eventually, he deduced that what Master Huang was trying to convey was that they needed to begin investigating undercover. Master Huang did not provide him with a direct response. Instead, he inquired if Lurena had calmed down and asked him to come to the base later. Lurena was abruptly brought back to the present by the console repeating the password incorrect warning. Clutching a cloth with a symbol imprinted on it, he realized that Master Huang was correct in asserting that the escort group had not encountered any demonic beasts, but rather a group of devious individuals. Grasping the piece of cloth and the diary in each hand, he swore to his uncle and aunt that he would avenge them very soon. Yet, as he frantically flipped through the diary, he quickly realized there was no further mention of the incident or its location, so the clues abruptly ended once again. A voice from outside captured Lurena's attention. The voice was calling out for a Dr. Chi. The person dismounted from his motorcycle, revealing himself to be Nape, who found it odd that no one was responding to him. Nape was holding out a paper, attempting to double-check if the address was correct, and he indeed confirmed that he was at the right address. However, his face was full of doubt as he looked at the demolished building that was still in flames in front of him, noting that it was different from the mission description. Despite all his doubt, wondering if he would find someone in such a place, he bravely entered the building and started calling out and asking if there was anyone around. Suddenly, a loud thud was heard behind Nape, and he felt shudders as Lurena jumped from behind him, all the while confirming that there was someone. Next, a huge impact was heard, and Nape lost his consciousness. The moment he opened his eyes, he found himself tied up and hanging upside down from the ceiling. Hysterically, he asked for help, negotiating with Lurena to spare him, but Lurena told him to stop being noisy and asked why it was him again. Nape felt relieved when he realized that it was Lurena who tied him up. He then greeted him, hoping he had been well, and guaranteed that he never mentioned Lurena to anyone, all the while swaying from side to side. After offering all the pleasantries, he boldly asked Lurena if he could put him down. However, Lurena just told him that he would reconsider the request after he had finished asking, and proceeded to inquire why he had come to the place. Confidently, Nape answered that it was for a well-paid escort mission he received in the black market. Nevertheless, Lurena told him to cut the crap, all the while rummaging through his bag and asking him if the parcel was inside. Lurena managed to pull out a men's magazine from Nape's backpack, and his face was full of judgment, while Nape frantically explained that it was not the parcel but rather his strategic materials. As Lurena started going through the pages of the magazine, he coyly said that the thing was very suspicious, so he would be confiscating it for further investigation. In response, Nape tried to protest, saying that he spent a lot on buying the magazine. However, when Lurena started staring daggers at him, he panicked and blurted in agreement that it was very suspicious indeed. Consequently, Lurena, his master, must thoroughly investigate the magazines, and he would also give him the address of the seller. Lurena seemed pleased with the agreement. Subsequently, he pulled another item from Nape's bag, which appeared to be a handheld radio with a single red button at the center. Lurena looked at Nape, full of judgment, and asked him if he had come all the way there just to deliver an item with only one button. Nape retorted that it was a mission he received in the black market, and the offer was very generous. With an expression full of curiosity and mischief, Lurena asked Nape if he had clicked the button before, to which Nape strongly replied that he was a professional escort and was also worried that it would explode with just a simple click. Before Nape could even finish his sentence, Lurena had already clicked the button. Consequently, he just cast aside the words he had just said. All the while, Lurena was continuously clicking on the button and wondering why nothing was happening. Suddenly, a static sound came from the handheld radio, and the voice on the other side asked if the experiment was completed. As the voice inquired whether the experiment was a success, Lurena coaxed Nape to answer the question. While still hanging upside down, Nape confidently replied that the experiment was a success. There was no response from the other side for a while, and then, all of a sudden, the voice said that they would remember Nape's voice and proceeded to hang up immediately. Infuriated, Lurena called the voice a coward for not daring to speak another word. He even dared the voice to call back and give him their address. Meanwhile, Nape was worrying if he had said something wrong and why the person on the other line wanted to remember his voice. Nape urged Lurena to stop hitting the device and noticed that it was burning. The handheld radio suddenly lit up and exploded. The entire building was covered in smoke, and rubble was flying in all directions. The transformed Lurena emerged from the smoke, carrying Nape on his right arm and Miss Yurong on his left. As they were making their way out, Lurena pointed out how ruthless the person was for detonating the hospital without uttering a single word. At the same time, Nape couldn't believe that he had been carrying such a vicious item the whole time. Lurena asked Nape if he had seen the person's face when he accepted the mission, but Nape told him that, in general, you don't get to see what dealers look like in the black market. He added that the person who assigned him the mission was wearing a mask that made sounds. In a desolate rocky area, the person who was wearing a full cloak and a gas mask in the promotional video pushed a button on a handheld device, causing it to make a beeping sound. Staring into space, he said that the doctor had been discovered. He then sighed and remarked that it was expected of trash to be useless. In the beginning, a young girl was balled up in a corner, hungry and searching for her parents. Eventually, an old man approached her and somberly told her that it was very unfortunate that her parents had been eaten by a demonic beast. Subsequently, he handed her a piece of bread, which she devoured vigorously. As time passed, the old man loomed over the now teenage girl and told her that she had indeed become a beauty as she grew up. He declared that it was time for her to repay him, all the while undressing and revealing a lewd, drooling face. Desperately, she tried to defend herself, and the next thing she knew, she found herself engulfed in flames and floating midair. In a horrifying display, she burned everything and everyone to death. Confused, she questioned herself about what was wrong with her. Suddenly, a gigantic, sinister face of Dr. Cheat appeared behind her and informed her that she was sick, but he could help her. He grabbed her into his palms and told her that as long as she gave him her abilities, he could help her. However, he then commanded her to die. Out of nowhere, a huge fist butchered the doctor into pieces. It was the transformed Lurena, who told the doctor to get lost. With a sweating, red face, Miss Yurong awoke from her dream, feeling startled. At this point, Nape was driving his motorcycle, while Miss Yurong sat in the sidecar's passenger seat, and Lurena rode at the back, engrossed in reading a book. Upon noticing that she was awake, Nape greeted her with a smile and mentioned that she seemed to have had a nightmare earlier. Still terrified, Miss Yurong looked at the stranger and immediately fired multiple questions about his identity, her location, and the whereabouts of her escort. Nape only answered the last question, explaining that her escort was reading a book behind her. Nonchalantly, Lurena turned around and asked her if she was looking for him, while holding a book in his hands. Relieved, he told her that she didn't burn up and that the secret formula had been quite effective. Feeling reassured, Miss Yurong relaxed as Lurena told her not to worry since the squinting-eyed man wouldn't cause her any more trouble. However, her expression of relief quickly turned to disgust when she realized what Lurena was reading. She questioned him about the nature of the magazine he was reading with such a serious face. Proudly, Lurena gave her a thumbs up and declared that it was learning material, prompting her to respond that he was shameless and to question whether he thought she was blind. While driving, Nape glanced over at Lurena with a worried expression and advised him to put the magazine away, as they were nearing town soon, and such treasures were easily coveted by others. Annoyed, Miss Yurong yelled that they were missing the point. Eventually, they arrived at an apartment building, where Lurena looked quite pleased as he laid down on a cushion, appreciating its softness. He commended Nape, admitting that while he wasn't very capable, he did know how to enjoy life. However, Nape retorted angrily that Lurena had no right to talk about his capability since he was sleeping on his sofa. In response, Lurena asked what more he wanted when he had already given him his bed to sleep in. Nape's expression turned grim as he pointed at the ragged, patched-up mat on the floor, but Lurena showed no regard for it. Meanwhile, Miss Yurong, who was in the same room as them, overheard their bickering. Consequently, she offered to sleep on the floor instead, as she wasn't used to sleeping on a bed. However, Nape, blushing, insisted that it would be an honor for her to sleep on his bed and encouraged her to sleep well. Shamelessly, Lurena told her to ignore Nape and advised her to rest early, as Nape would be escorting her to a place the following morning, which would be a long journey. Upon hearing this, Miss Yurong asked Lurena where she was going, and he simply replied that it was for treatment and someone there could help her. Blushing at his kindness, Miss Yurong politely said that he couldn't keep helping her and then inquired if he was coming along too. Lurena, laying down on the couch, informed her that he had other matters to deal with, so he couldn't always stay with her. However, he assured her not to worry, as the people where she was going were very friendly. Miss Yurong looked down and, with a solemn smile on her face, agreed with Lurena, acknowledging that she couldn't keep living like that. In the morning, while looking at the letter placed on Nape's bed, Lurena mentioned that Miss Yurong had really left without informing them. However, Nape burst his bubble by saying that they had watched her leave last night, and he had wanted to stop her, but Lurena hadn't let him. Lurena picked up the note, and Nape asked him what was written on it. Lurena revealed that it was an acknowledgement of debt, stating that she would pay him back in the future. Consequently, Nape questioned if she intended to be always indebted to him and asked if Lurena wanted him to go after her. Lurena responded that there was no need, and then inquired if there were high grounds in the area. Standing at the edge of a beam, Lurena was overlooking the town they were in. He was talking to someone over his handheld radio, and the person on the other line confirmed that they had received the new intel and had found the lady that he mentioned. Lurena was pleased with the news and added instructions that her physique was unique, so they should keep a close watch on her. The person on the other line told Lurena that they had assigned someone to follow her and asked if they should invite her to their base for protection. After giving it some thought, Lurena decided that there was no need. He said that everyone had different aspirations, and she had made her own choice, so they just had to follow her for now. The person confirmed that they understood the instruction and proceeded to report about another matter, which was the information on organizations that were purchasing laboratory equipment on a large scale. Surprisingly, there weren't any. The person said that the person purchasing must be moving around secretly, as there were no witnesses or reports of anyone wearing gas masks, so they couldn't act rashly. Lurena understood and said that he would continue to follow up on the case. The person on the other line was about to end the call but remembered something. He told Lurena that everyone was now wondering what his relationship with the girl was since he had given his coat to her. Then, the person immediately hung up. Lurena looked dejected when he realized what it was that he felt missing, and Nape, who was kneeling and quivering at the edge of the building behind him, criticized him for noticing it just now. Lurena looked back and told Nape that if he was that scared, he shouldn't have followed him. Nevertheless, Nape retorted irritably that he was now being targeted because Lurena insisted that he talk, so the safest way was to follow him. Nape tried to threaten Lurena by using his secret, but with a mischievous look on his face, Lurena told Nape that Dr. Chi was the last person who discovered his identity, reminding him of what happened to the doctor. However, Nape did not care and demanded that Lurena could not leave him behind by all means. Feeling defeated, Lurena just agreed to whatever Nape wanted to do and told him that he was going to buy clothes. Lurena went into the stores and was looking at coats, but they all felt the same to him, so he decided to just pick any one of those and looked for the price tag. He could not believe his eyes when he saw the price of the coat he chose. He immediately rummaged through his pocket and, to his dismay, discovered that he was completely broke. He contemplated what he should do, as he was also getting hungry. As he remembered Nape, a bright idea crossed his mind, and the clueless Nape suddenly felt anxious. With a new coat and a steamed bun in hand, Lurena was now content. Meanwhile, Nape was complaining about why he had to pay for everything. However, Lurena shamelessly retorted that it was Nape's fault for following him, and emergencies happened. Nape questioned Lurena about why an escort like him was so poor, but instead of answering, Lurena told him to stop nagging, as he would pay him back when he got money from his next escort mission. Still, Nape told him to just forget it. Nape couldn't let go of the idea that Lurena's strength was beyond the level of a white-silver escort, and he found it strange. Suddenly, Nape's face lit up as he thought of a good idea. He proposed that the two of them should cooperate on the very profitable white-silver level mission he had recently come across. He believed that, with Lurena's strength and his identity, they would be able to complete the mission easily. The information piqued Lurena's interest, and he asked Nape what the mission was. Nape answered that it was to escort a prisoner. The Spirit Wind Mountain Village was a group of bandits that had been moving a lot around the Salt City base. They had committed innumerable murders and would vanish into thin air afterward. Nape explained that they always moved mysteriously through the mountains and forests, so the Union had a hard time arresting them. Lurena then inquired about the person they would be escorting, and Nape replied that the prisoner was a leader of the Spirit Wind Mountain Village known as the Thunderbolt Legs. As Nape imparted the information he had on Thunderbolt Legs, a mental image of a bulky bandit covered in tattoos came across both their minds. He mentioned that his iron legs were tough and invincible, and they were in charge of escorting him to prison. Lurena was delighted since they just met the requirement of 2 people for a prisoner escort mission. Nape proudly agreed with Lurena, informing him that the escort mission could only be accepted by a white-silver level escort or above. However, at the base, Nape was hysterically complaining about why he could not accept the mission since there was a test he had never heard of before. He aggressively raised his insignia in front of the receptionist, questioning whether she thought there was a problem with his qualifications as a white-silver escort. The receptionist calmly adjusted her glasses and told him that she did not doubt his qualifications, she was simply following orders. She also added that the prisoner had agreed to the request, so the escort had to pass the test either way. Nape's expression turned serious as he questioned the receptionist about prisoners suddenly having rights and accused her of negotiating a good price privately. The receptionist merely closed her eyes and replied that she had no comment. With a playful smile on her face, the receptionist informed Nape that the test involved fighting the Thunderbolt Legs and that the mission would be as if he won. Nape appeared confident, dismissing the test as a trivial matter, and then turned to Lurena with twinkling eyes, suggesting that he handle the challenge. However, Lurena refused him in a heartbeat, finding it too boring. Now in an arena, Nape continued to complain as he prepared for battle, feeling disappointed because he thought he had finally latched onto someone with a powerful position. Lurena looked at Nape apathetically, asking him what was wrong with his brain for wanting him to fight when a white-silver escort could capture the prisoner. With that, Nape reluctantly accepted that he had to fight. Back in the audience seating area, the receptionist asked Nape if he was ready and reminded him not to kill the person. Nape, standing on the stage, expressed annoyance at the numerous requirements. The receptionist adjusted her glasses again as she instructed the man who had been by her side earlier to let the prisoner out. The man panicked, questioning if she was sure, while Lurena stood behind them, looking very uninterested in the matter. As the two of them bickered about releasing the prisoner, Lurena rested his head on his hands, growing sleepy. The thick, heavy, metallic gate in front of Nape was opened, and smoke billowed out. A silhouette of a person appeared, and as Nape saw the chain on its feet shatter easily, he swallowed hard. A voluptuous woman with brown hair lunged towards Nape swiftly, and the previously sleepy Lurena was now amused. The woman delivered a flying kick to Nape as Lurena marveled at the fact that the Thunderbolt legs was actually a woman. Nape effortlessly dodged the woman's kick, and as he turned his body to point his gun at her head, he confidently suggested to the lovely lady that they should end things there since she couldn't beat him in terms of speed. The woman snickered, dropped to the ground with unbelievable speed, and initiated a spinning bird kick. Meanwhile, Nape's eyes gleamed as he recognized her refusal to give up. He preemptively apologized as he fired his gun, aiming towards her. As the bullet approached her, rather than being alarmed, she simply grinned. The receptionist, who had been watching, commented that Thunderbolt legs possessed more than just speed. Impressively, Thunderbolt legs deflected the bullet with her legs, and Nape heard a metallic sound upon impact. She then pushed herself off the ground and skillfully maneuvered midair to deliver an axe kick to Nape. Although Nape managed to dodge in time, the force of the kick created a massive hole in the arena's floor. Lurena observed the fight intently, while the receptionist and her companion commented on Thunderbolt legs' strength. The receptionist revealed that her real name was Li Xiuzhen, a transformation-type awakener, whose legs could transform into steel. As one of the powerful cadres of Spirit Wind Mountain Village, she claimed to have strength that an ordinary white-silver escort couldn't match. The receptionist doubted Nape could defeat her. In response, Lurena interrupted their conversation with a question. He inquired why she was called Thunderbolt legs if her legs became steel, which left the two momentarily speechless. The receptionist then brushed it off, stating it wasn't the main point, and that it was time to test Mr. Nape's strength. She wondered why he hadn't used his ability yet. Confused by the receptionist's question, Lurena sought clarification, asking if she was referring to Nape, who had indeed been using his ability. Nape fired another bullet towards Li Xiuzhen, who promptly deflected it with her now steeled legs. Li Xiuzhen taunted Nape's choice of weapon, asserting that his small toy handgun might be useful when dealing with ordinary beasts but was common knowledge that it wouldn't do much damage to an awakener. As she suggested that it was in his best interest not to accept the mission if he only had that much strength, Nape executed the classic anime glasses move. Li Xiuzhen suddenly felt a strange sensation in her legs that genuinely frightened her. With a smile on his face, Nape confidently asked her if she still held the same opinion now. The receptionist was carefully analyzing which of the two common types of awakeners Nape might be. She stated that if he were a transformation type, then it would have been accompanied by a significant deformation of the body. Consequently, if he had been using his ability as Lurena said, then it was evident that he was an enhancement type awakener, where the functions of the body cells are greatly enhanced. However, as they watched the fight and witnessed the explosive power of Nape's bullet, which was destroying the arena, her companion began to doubt her analysis. He proposed that what if Nape was actually a transformation type and his bullets were his deformities? While listening to their conversation, Lurena just thought to himself that Nape's ability was completely unrelated to the gun and bullets. He also acknowledged that Nape had grown stronger since the last time he saw him. Nevertheless, as Nape reloaded his gun and Li Xiuzhen positioned herself behind him, ready to deliver her axe kick, Lurena concluded that he was still not strong enough to defeat her. In response, Nape executed a front flip, dodging her kick, and while midair, he fired his gun at her. Li Xiuzhen scoffed at Nape's aim, as the bullet missed her and landed on the ground beside her. To her surprise, the area beside her exploded, sending huge rubble flying in her direction. Astonished, she hurriedly dodged the debris. Grasping her stomach, she felt relieved that she had not been injured there. Now furious, she told Nape that he should not think of leaving the place intact, while Nape was confused as to why she had suddenly become so angry with him. Li Xiuzhen picked up Nape's bullet from the floor and mentioned that she felt a strange vibration when she was hit on the leg, but the bullets appeared ordinary. She threw the bullet she had just picked up, realizing that Nape's ability was bullet vibration. Dismissive, she called it ridiculous and said that his ability was meaningless as long as he could not shoot someone. Nape appeared worried, yet he maintained an air of confidence, praising her for figuring out so much from just one bullet. As Nape turned to look over at the three audience members, the receptionist and her companion were trying to decipher what Nape was attempting to convey. Meanwhile, in the arena, Nape was sweating profusely as he tried to wave and send a signal to Lurena, asking for help and indicating that it was his turn. Simultaneously, Lurena wore a playful smile on his face, feigning innocence about what Nape was trying to communicate, and suggested that maybe it was his victory declaration. With worry written all over his face, Nape looked up as Li Xiuzhen got behind him, mocking him for having the time to talk to his companion. Feeling desperate, Nape acknowledged Li Xiuzhen's strength and declared that he would have to go all out. He twirled and fired bullets hysterically, naming this move the Bullet Storm. As Li Xiuzhen dodged the bullets flying all over the place, some even reached the audience stand where Lurena was laughing hysterically. The receptionist, on the other hand, was annoyed by Nape's move, stating that he was out of his mind, while her companion protected her from the bullets. Suddenly, a voice called out to Nape, telling him that it was enough. The unexpected interruption caught the attention of Nape and everyone else, including Lurena, who wondered who the person was. A large individual stood at a distance, and with a booming voice, he told Nape to get out, creating a massive shockwave. As Nape and Li Xiuzhen defended themselves from the shockwave and the debris flying toward them, Nape recognized the person. The individual, whom he referred to as Wu Qian, stood there arrogantly, instructing Nape to be tactful as he wanted this mission for himself.